Alright, so hopefully the computer doesn't blow up here. I'm saving the recording from the 18-man session while also recording this session and Hold'em Manager running, so this should be interesting. But alright, so we have so what I have loaded up here is an $8 180-man game. This came from Ivan. Thank you for sending that game in. It was helpful. We also have a few others if we get through this one, but sometimes just getting through a whole 180 man will take about an hour or so. So hopefully we'll get in some good spots. I didn't get really a chance to go through this game yet, so I think besides Ivan, we're all kind of just have some fresh eyes. Yeah, it's a turbo, $8 turbo. I think the only non-turbos are the 450s and the 11s. So yep, $8 turbo. Alrighty. So we also have like a $3 rebuy as well. We can go through, and I know Paul, you sent me some hands, so we'll see if we get to them. If not, then maybe we could save them for future sessions. So let's just get to it. And if you have any questions or whatever as we're going through, just fire away. I think I saw the first couple hands, so this is an interesting hand. Are you guys usually opening here? What's your guys? I know everybody kind of plays the early stages a little bit different, with how wide they're opening. Anybody mind this open? Queen 10 suited. I don't mind it. I'll wait for you guys to come in. Guys, give me 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. So let me read all the responses about. It seems like a simple hand, but just so you guys know, my approach to any game, I don't care what sit and go game it is, it's always trying to find the most optimal route. It's not just, oh, is this plus EV or not? Is it the most plus EV that move that we can make at that time? So that's what I'm always trying to figure out. And while this seems like a innocent hand enough, we're at 10-20, middle position, suited, Broadway hand. I still like to figure out, is it optimal to open here? When is it optimal to open? Do we just auto fold these types of hands? And it seems like we had varying responses. Quentin, you said you don't even open this hand. Ivan, you open this hand, plays well in position. I agree. We're in the hijack, so there's a chance we're not going to play this hand in position. I raise these hands in late position. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you want to be opening these hands in late position. That's where your value is coming from. In an ideal scenario to open here is to have the two players to your left be tight. Is to be tight so that it's less likely they're going to flat you and you're going to play out of position, and actually for the blinds to be on the looser side, because the value in this hand is not raising to get folds and then picking up 30 chips. I mean, who cares? The value is playing post flop against loose players so that when you hit your hand, you can hit something big. So ideally late position, even if you were one position over to the right, I think I'd probably fold this. Opening here's okay. We only have a couple hands on these guys to your right. They look to be on the looser side, but Queen 10 off, I fold. Queen 10 suited, it's kind of right there. It's okay. So we end up getting a call. Flopping top pair. I think we can make a standard C-bet here for around half pot, maybe a little bit more. This is interesting. So right on this board we get check raised. What do you guys think? What's your play here? Call, fold, ship it? Um, it's definitely an interesting spot. Like I know it's a 180 man. You know, Queen 10 on this board. Is it going to be the best thing in the world? Oh boy. Hold on for a second. All right. Alrighty, so let's get back to this hand. I see you guys were talking about it. Let me scroll backwards here. Alright, so at this point in the game, since this guy's a random, I have to imagine you don't have much information on this guy as far as what he could be doing this with. I mean, I guess the best we could hope for is a draw. My concern here is just that, you know, if you call here, are you just going broke on the turn if there's a blank card hits?
I was just thinking that obviously if he's on a draw, he's got less equity on the turn, and we don't have to get it in a flip.
That's true. I mean, but if he has just a draw, then you actually you want to get it all in on the flop against a draw. You're going to get him to commit his chips when you're well ahead. Um, so if that's the case, you know, then there's an argument for just getting it in now and get him to commit with the draw when he's only got 30%, you know, 33% equity or whatever. Um, but that's just draws. Obviously, there's other tens that beat us: King 10, Ace 10, two pair. You could be a flush draw with overcards, which we're in a straight up coin flip with. Um, could be a set. You know, I gotta. You could easily have the best. You not easily. You could have the best hand here at the time, at the moment. I'm usually not too keen on going bust here, potentially, with Queen 10 on this board. I think you're up against a lot of potential draws and overs, which isn't great. Hands that just straight up beat you. So you know it's literally like the third or fourth hand of this game. You know, which I guess is always the concern about even playing Queen 10 suited. I don't really fault playing it because I think there's tons of value in playing it against random players. But I think you also have to know, you know, when's a good time to play it and get max value and get it all in, and when this is kind of marginal at best. Um, so you just call. The 5 is actually a good card. Fires out another pretty big bet here. Based upon that, the 5 is like the best thing you could have hoped for here, pretty much. So you might as well just get it in at this point. And you do. So he's got queen jack. So he committed himself pretty much with an open ender and essentially one over to the board. So you definitely had him had the edge there on the flop. That's really the best hand I think you could have hoped for there, to be honest with you. Um, I just don't think I'm looking to commit my entire stack on queen 10 with queen 10 on that board. So it's good that you it's good that you won. I would be a little bit careful though with getting overcommitted though on that board.
Okay, so hey guys, this is hardcore.
Yo.
I just wanna give my hey so yeah, I mean I just wanna give my thoughts on the hand real quick. I like calling the flop or folding. I don't like three batting because um as said, like our hand is not a monster here at this point. Like there's ace ten, maybe like pocket aces, pocket kings, something like that. There are a lot of draws, but I would rather call the flop and reevaluate on the turn. When he bats like that on the turn, I'm very concerned about my hand. Although he can be doing that with a very weak top pair as well. But I kind of like the way he played the hand. I guess I would fold to the turn bat, although the turn card is pretty nice for us. But I'd still fold to the turn. But I think getting in is fine as well. Probably like plus GPV to get it in after you call the flop
Yeah.
and a blank hits.
Yeah. I think I agree with calling on the flop and reevaluating because my whole thing here is that I'm just not looking to get my whole stack in here. So I agree if I wasn't gonna fold, I would just call. I still think I'd probably just fold to a check raise on that board. Um, yeah, yeah. So we'll keep going. So, but that's I agree with your opinion there. All right, so we already saw that hand. So, well, glad you won that. Now we have a half decent stack to work with here. Yeah, just let it go. And if anybody needs me to go through the HUD again, just let me know. Now, what do you think about calling here pre-flop?
I just fold these.
Who calls? Who
Uh,
folds? Who
um,
three bets?
I fold. I fold our three bet. I think fold is the best play since it's T30, so we don't need to make any fancy plays here. We're probably ahead of Villa's range, but the thing is, the stand up doesn't play really well post flop, especially if you're out of position, kind of deep. For that reason, I'd probably fold.
Yeah. You know what? I would call versus a loose, fishy player. I just love getting involved in post flop scenarios with them and hitting a hand and stacking off. And I think if we had ace 10 and we hit an ace, I think there's a potential against, again, a loose player to get them to stack off with worse aces. But if we're looking at stats here, this guy's 13-11. I know he's in late position, but it's relatively tight. I doubt we're going to get much value from this hand to begin with, even if we hit an ace or a 10. And I agree that the reverse implied odds come into play here a lot as well. So early stages, tight player, put in a raise. I would just toss it. I would just toss it. If that guy was playing like 35-20 or something, I may call and see if we can get him to stack off. It's just that these guys that are this tight aren't, if he is, I'm not sure if this guy is a reg. I don't know if anybody recognizes him, but I'm not looking to. It's very rare that you're gonna be able to get him to stack off, very lightly, especially with ace 10. That's, you hit an ace. Is he ever gonna really stack off with a worse ace? Maybe not. So that's my general philosophy on that one. So just keep going through. Alrighty, so we had some people come to the table, or maybe we changed tables. I don't know. Just looking at the players that are here, one thing I always like to do, whatever table I'm at, is look at the players that are to my left and see what their stats are, see how they're playing. we have 78 hands, 43 hands, 13 hands. So a half decent sample to get an idea whether they're playing loose, tight, whatever. We got 13, 10, 9, 9, 17, 17. We'll see how that plays out. But these guys are going to be great to be raising through because they're just not playing many hands. They're pretty tight. This guy certainly isn't 3-betting much. So that's going to be something to keep in mind, potentially exploiting them down the road. So just wanted to point that out. Looks like you have Samakos to your right, that wacko. He's probably playing like 900 tables at this point. Not sure who's familiar with him or who isn't. Yeah, he's always there because he's playing in every game that runs. I still think he makes very, very weird plays for playing so many tables. You would think a guy that's playing like 40, 50, 60 tables is playing pretty straightforward. From what I've seen, he usually doesn't. He makes some wacky plays once in a while. Could be misclicks too, I guess. But so yeah, I would be pretty much raising here with any two cards, by the way. Just because of how tight these guys are. They're not likely to flat you. They're probably going to 3-bet or fold. By the way, the 3-betting stats are the ones in yellow that are in the third row here. The 16.7 is actually his 3-bet versus steal. And it doesn't. This is only over 6 hands. You actually need a half decent sample to get accurate numbers. Typically over 10% is pretty aggressive. Essentially what he's done here is, if you look at it's filtered, over 6 hands he has 3-bet once. So that doesn't tell you a whole lot. I don't think 16.7 is an accurate indication of how wide he's 3-betting. Just as his 0%, it's only over 1 hand. So regardless, because of just how tight they are, I would open here with any 2 cards. And obviously raise fold, raise call with the appropriate range. Now, the same thing can be said for this hand as well. Like, and for the guys that know, how I play and how I like to exploit, you've heard this before if you've seen the Sit and Go series I've done. In this scenario, what the hell is the difference between Ace-5 and King-4? Besides the fact that there's one extra player. Okay? So what's the difference? And I'm going to pose the question to you guys. Is there a difference? Or why raise with Ace-5 and not King-4? Yes, that's another thing I'll point out as well. Maybe, I'm not sure if everybody here is using a HUD. Maybe this will give you a reason to use it because there can be some extra spots to pick up chips. You don't need every single stat under the sun. Right, for this play, I'm pretty much just looking at how tight they are. 13, 10, 9, 9, 17, 17. It's over a small sample. He hasn't given us, I don't see a reason yet to think that he's overly loose anyway. But yeah, blockers. There's a king blocker, an ace blocker. So be it. The point is, though, and let's just assume for a second that this guy he's not going to flat. And this guy isn't going to call, these guys aren't calling either with playing 13, 10, 9, 9. They're pretty much 3-betting or folding. So the thing is that our hand, we don't need to play it post-flop, most likely. Okay, you're not going to have the most ideal scenario every single time. But the thing is, we're not going to play post-flop. So that's why I say, what's the difference between Ace-5 and King-4? Yeah, you have a blocker with an ace. You also have a blocker with a king. But opening here, even though there's an extra player, they're tight enough. They're not, they have to exploit this play. They have to be 3-betting you very wide, and which just doesn't happen very frequently. So, these are types of hands that I look to open very wide when I'm not going to expect to play post-flop. And that's another key. Obviously, the difference between King-4 and King-10 is King-10 plays better post-flop. But you're going to fold both of them to a 3-bet. So you have to ask yourself, is there potential to play post flop? If there's tight players or regs to your left, really there usually isn't. So then king 4 pretty much becomes exactly the same as king 10. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So these types of wide opens I use through all positions of the table, by the way. Under the gun, middle position. And I know it seems kind of wacky to open up under the gun, but if stack sizes, if everybody's above 10 big blinds, which they are, and let's say you had like 7 out of 9 regs, you know you're not going to get flatted. You're going to get they're going to give you respect for an under the gun raise, typically just for natural hand strength for under the gun. You can easily fold to a 3-bet. You know, obviously the more plays you have to go through, the less plus EV it becomes. But you know, again, I'll refer back to the videos that are in the forum. There's that, I think it's Sit and Go series part 2. It talks about, you know, opening with any 2 cards and at what stages that can become plus EV with any 2 cards. So just keep an eye out for that. Just something to, you know, open up your mind a little bit. And obviously we're getting further away from, you know, more players to our left. So it's not like you're going to raise every single time, just every once in a while. And especially in a 180 man, if you pick it up, if you do that 4 or 5 times throughout the entire game, that could be a couple thousand extra chips. And the time I really start cranking up the aggression with those plays is when antes kick in, because then you've got antes, or you know, the pots with antes and blinds, so it becomes very, very valuable. Here's a question, and I'll just pose this to you. If this gets folded around, what do you guys do with 3-6?
I either jam or min raise, depending on the villain.
Yep, yep. So, you know, I'm sure there are players that will jam here. I'm sure that's plus chip EV. Against this guy who we've already identified as pretty tight, yep, I would just raise. And I don't min raise, like, I pretty much min raise from all positions of the table, or 2.2. When I get into the small blind, I typically go a little bit bigger. It seems to discourage 3-bets and somebody potentially flatting you, so it doesn't give them an extra reason to make another standard play. So I typically go actually 2.5 from the small blind. So I would make it like 375 here. And because he's got right around 10 big blinds, he should assume minimal fold equity. And in that case, his all-in calling ranges will be similar to his 3-bet shoving range. And we could raise fold here very comfortably. Like raise if he 3-bets fold, otherwise this is going to be very successful. Against, again, the key is a tight player. This guy's pretty tight, so I would just raise there with any 2 cards. Alright, so we get a limp, a jam from a guy we don't have too much info on here. Anybody calling the 9s here? Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably fold. Tens would get closer to a call, depending on the player. We don't have a lot of information, so. And there's 3 guys stacked behind us, plus the initial limper, so I think I would toss it as well. So, here you go again. You got ace 3. If you raise and somebody shoves, you're not committed to anybody, right? And you've got 3 players here, 16, 13 now. And by the way, you've noticed that the stats are changing. They change with their stack sizes, their effective stack sizes. So their stats at the beginning of the game are going to be different than their stacks when they have 10 big blinds, for example. So I want to see how their game changes as their stack size changes. So here, 16-13, 9-9, 13-13. You have this one guy who seems to be a little bit loose passive. That's okay. Don't mind playing in position against him at all. This can be a good spot to open up. It could be any two cards. If you're likely to play post flop, I may want something that either flops better or has some showdown value, like an ace high does. But regardless, this is another one of those spots that you can open up pretty wide. What do you guys think about that? Does that make sense? Why this could be a good open, or with any two cards for that matter? Yeah, that's an ideal thing. Like, if you see that the big blind is going to fold to a C bet a lot, that's like an ideal scenario. Loose passive player in the blinds, and he has a high fold to C bet. So that's the fold to C bet number here. It's 0. That's only over one opportunity though, so we don't have a lot of. Yeah, you can give a heads up. I guess you are. He is a station, but that's okay. I don't mind playing against one of them in position. There's a lot of value to playing in position against those guys. I know ace 3 doesn't flop the greatest, but in general, if it's just one player. Now, if 3 of 4 of these, or even 2 of 4, we're playing like 29-7, 30-20, yeah, I wouldn't be opening up through them because it's likely you are going to play post flop, potentially against 2 players. The edge there decreases with those types of players. But 3 out of 4 being really tight, I would go ahead and open. You say 3 jamming stacks. Yes, they have right around 10 big blinds. Many times they can assume minimal or 0 fold equity in this spot when you're right at that level because they expect you to raise call those stacks. Like if you're sitting there with 9, 10 big blinds, how often do you consider when somebody raises and you 3-bet that you're going to have a lot of fold equity? Like, are you 3-betting lighter there? I guess that's the point.
No, I agree. I just see it that there's plenty of variables in that one where you've got the actual 4 people behind. Two of them have got proper jamming stacks. One's a station. It just seems like there's a lot to contest with there.
With how tight these guys are, I mean, the scenario isn't going to be the most ideal every single time, but. And I'm not saying that you should absolutely 100% open here. I would be opening here because I try to take as many of these spots as possible because it's so profitable in the long run. And especially when the antes come in, it has to work less than 50% of the time to be profitable.
Yeah, I agree. If I had the antes, I would open. Sure.
What are you guys doing here? Jamming or raising? Or folding, maybe?
I think jamming isn't bad because of the small stack sizes on some of these players. I mean, only a few players have more than 10 big blinds, so effective stack sizes are much smaller. But I would rather min raise and call these guys and fold to the bigger ones to increase my my GPV here, to increase my equity.
Yep, I 100% agree. I would open here for a raise. Let's see what you end up doing. So you jam. The reason I wouldn't jam is exactly like you said. You have this guy here is really tight with a 3K stack. His 3-betting range, all-in 3-betting range, and all-in calling range, I guarantee you are pretty much identical. I don't think he's going to 3-bet you much wider. This guy with 4,800, he's kind of loose in the passive side. Maybe you play post flop against him and he just flats. I don't know, but I still don't think he 3-bet jams you much wider than he would call an all-in versus an under the gun raise. Now you have these other stacks. You got 5 big blinds, 8 big blinds, 6 big blinds, and this guy here who's got 7, I would probably just raise and call it off versus them guys. Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, I'm not concerned about him flatting, really. I'm just, if we're gonna go all in anyway, and these guys are gonna shove, my only concern is just preventing that small percentage of the time that the bigger stacks wake up with a hand, because I would raise and fold to a 3-bet from these guys. So I want to conserve or save myself for the times that they pick up a hand and we're crushed. So I would just raise and. But that's the point. Wait, who are you talking about? Lower pockets that rejam from who? But we're the difference. The thing is, are they going to be 3-betting so much wider than they call the all in when they assume zero fold equity, since they have 6 big blinds, 7 big blinds, 8 big blinds? Exactly. They shouldn't. You know, it's not like they're going to have pocket deuce and say, I'm going to ship it because I think I'm going to get this guy to fold. They're either going to go all in or not, in my opinion, with the same hands, because they shouldn't assume that they're going to get you to fold. Maybe there's an extra hand or two. If that's the case, that's still not wide enough to justify shoving or 3-betting versus or shoving versus raising. Who am I raise calling? Probably the small blind, the big blind, the cutoff. I would be pretty damn concerned about this guy if he jammed, but I guess we have the equity to do it. I don't think I call the button. I don't think I raise call the button.
Yeah, I agree. Calling the button would be very bad.
Yeah.
Yes, 12, 11 BB. Yeah, I mean, basically, just my thoughts on this. When we raise here, I don't think any of these shorter stacks would put a single hand on their ranges wider than what they're calling on our way with. Like, it really doesn't make much sense. I think the only way they can really exploit us here is by stop and going, and the only players that can do it is the small blind and the big blind, and the big blind doesn't really have the stack to stop and go against us effectively, like we call every single time. So yeah, I mean, because of that, like I don't feel any of these shorter stacks can do much. Like, if they jam, we're always calling them, and
Yeah.
they know it, so they shouldn't be lighter.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, I would probably just raise. And so we get jammed on here. And the guy wakes up with ace queen. So, that's unfortunate. So now we got. Are we still calling his jam? Oh, so if you raise here, would you call? Well, of course not. He's only shoving ace queen and ace king. I'm just only kidding, but you know, you could raise fold because he probably it would be right on the borderline. To be honest with you, it would be on the borderline. I mean, is he capable of shoving ace 10, ace 9, king jack, king queen, pocket 5, 6s? Like, is he rejamming those hands? Yeah, so it's tough. It would definitely be a tough decision that sometimes you're probably going to be right on and sometimes you're going to be wrong. Because ace jack, you got to figure out what your equity would be. And if you have enough, did you think against his shoving range? If his shoving range here is only ace jack and like pocket 9s himself, pocket 8s maybe, then your hand probably doesn't have much more than like 30% equity. So I wouldn't argue with a raise fold there versus him. Yeah, I doubt it would. I doubt it would. Alright, so did I miss anything here? So we're short stack. We have to ship it in here at some point. We do. I think I would just be shipping it in here as well. These spots I actually sometimes just raise. Sometimes you get people not pay attention, so it looks like a raise versus a small stack shoving. I think I would definitely get it in there though. Anybody disagree with that?
Not me.
Yeah, I think even if you get called, your hand actually has some equity there. Typically. See, good fold. King Jack, definitely shipping it. Hit our Jack, delightful. Alright, so a little recovery. I think I'm ISO jamming here. For sure. Good. Hit our ace. Good. Alright, so we're getting back to some half decent stacks here. And just toss it. Ace 4. Another interesting one. What do you guys think here?
I mean, it's kind of hard to calculate because it's kind of a short-handed game at this point. Like there are many people not there, so the antes are, yeah. There's like 170, I guess, um, less antes. Usually this is a plus GPV spot. Right here, I'm not sure because because it's not full ring, so I don't know. But usually these spots are pretty standard plus GPV here.
Yeah, I mean, my play is to, I mean, you'll know what I'll say, is to actually raise here. Is to just raise. And is anybody going to be shipping a hand worse than ace 4 on you here? Are they going to be shipping wider here? Given the stack sizes? Yeah, I think King Queen would probably do it. Um, Remind me after this. I'm going to use that Card Runners EV program that I have to look at this spot. I don't want to do it now because it takes me a while to input all the variables. So I don't want to take up too much time while you guys are just watching me mess around with this. Um, but if anybody's not familiar with it, essentially it can help determine these decisions where what's optimal, shoving, folding, or actually raising and folding, depending on the all the decisions that the players to our left can make. So remind me to take a look at this hand. If the pot was bigger, I think you could actually ship it. But what do you guys think about Jack 10?
Definitely showing this.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think we could ship Jack 10 here pretty profitably. Yeah, I think we need to ship this in. Anybody disagree with that? Yeah, I mean, this you probably pick up like a half a big blind and edge here or so. But definitely need to start picking up chips, especially before the blinds come through. So I like a shove there. Does anybody recognize this player? Is this a reg or random? Anybody know? Based upon his stats, I assume he's not. Okay, so we get a guy who ships here. What are you guys doing versus a random here?
I call versus everyone basically.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm calling here for sure. And a little unlucky. Get that in. Nice. If it's folded, we gotta ship it. Good. You guys just keeping it going here? Ship the Jack 8?
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. Yep, so a couple spots it seems like. Just missing a few spots to pick up chips. So I definitely would ship the Jack 8. I would ship a maybe not any two cards, but pretty damn wide there. Yeah, I understand that. I know it's always a concern. It's like, oh, I just shoved all in. There also gets to a point where it's like it doesn't matter. Like if you just shove four hands in a row and you picked up a half decent, like a mediocre hand, okay. But it's more imperative now that you pick up these chips. Ugh. Ace deuce. I hate it, but it's probably a jam.
Yeah. I mean, if he had 10 big blinds, it could be close, but we have less than 8, I guess. Yeah, we have 8 BBs.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah, I mean it's pretty standard here, in my opinion. Although like there are a couple of short stacks. Is this an $8 or a $2?
$8.
Right. Yeah, I mean if Jen is a regular, he might choose to exploit us lightly here, but generally this is a pretty good shove.
Yeah, I agree. We have to ship it in here. The whole thing with the antes, the blinds, the fact that the blinds are coming around, and again something always to pay attention to. Find out when the blinds are going to go up. If you knew that the blinds were going up the next hand, that would make this even more of a profitable shove, and you could potentially shove even wider as well. So you take, even if it was a slightly negative EV spot, you could take that here to preserve your future equity. So shipping the ace deuce. I mean, we could pull it up here. I loaded this game in Singo Wizard just to take a look at some of the spots. Like here was the Jack 10 hand. Had it as a shove. Ace 9 was fine. Ace Jack. Queen 7. So Jack 8 it has as a push. Ace deuce, we need to be a push. I think we just got to keep shipping it. Yeah, the whole point is I think you just need to give yourself a shot. Because if you let the blinds go through you, then it becomes essentially a luck game. And that luck could either be, you either pick up a really good hand at that time, or you get it all in with the worst of it, and hopefully your hand holds up.
Yeah.
So,
I
good.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was about to say I only fold this hand if the small blind is a very good regular, because now he has 2.5 BPs left. Um, it's a pretty good spot for him to pick up extra fold equity if we jam and he calls. So I mean, if I'm on his shoes, I'd be calling pretty light here.
Yes, I agree.
To take advantage of our fold equity. But I mean, if he's not a very good regular, I definitely just shove this and hope for the best.
Yep. That's a good point. Bah. Hopefully we get a spot here. What do you guys think here? Would anybody try to ISO this and just hope for the best?
I isolate here, although Jen looks like a very tight opponent. We have 3.5 BBs, 4 BBs. It's a very good spot for us. Like there's half of our stack only on blinds and empties, and our hand plays really well. Especially if Jen has a very bad range, like basically bad aces and stuff, and he decides to jam that over, a hand like 9 10 suited, Jack 10 off, etc. Then we're on a pretty good spot here. I would definitely call. I mean, isolate and hope the blinds fold.
Yeah, I mean the pot's close to 2,000. We have 1,500 chips. You're getting better than 2 to 1. You just have to have 2 live cards essentially, which you most likely do against his shoving range. So I think I would ISO jam here, and ISO jam with hands that again like have some equity, like a Queen 8, stuff like that. Say Queen 10. Definitely getting this in. Jamming this as well. Hey, welcome. And I seem to be getting a little bit of feedback. I'm okay now. So, I mean, all these spots here, they just need to be jams. Because, like, if you jam in a few spots, you shove it all in, you'll have enough chips so that you obviously don't need to keep doing this. I mean, that's the goal. But we keep finding ourselves with 4, 5, 6 big blinds. So, definitely need to ship it in.
Yeah, that's another shove.
Yeah, all these have to be shoves.
Good.
Alright, I think we can get kings in here. Wow, no ace. It's a surprise. Jamming's fine. Maybe even a raise to try. I guess nobody has the stack size to. There's no inducing. Whatever. Shoving's fine. All right, so we have a half decent stack to work with. Lovely. Checking back is fine. You could even put in a small bet, I think. You don't really want a king to come. Heart's not the worst thing in the world to come. I mean, if you get raised on this board, I think he's going to check raise an ace. If he's going to do anything. I mean, I guess there's the flush draw potential, but maybe like a king jack suited. I'm not sure what other hands he would have that are flush draw. So kings here, I definitely check it back. Queens, I'm more likely to bet. I'm not totally against checking it back, but definitely betting the turn. 100% betting there. See, I think we need to bet here for sure. Bet it really small to a point where maybe he calls with a 10. Maybe he calls with a small pocket pair thinking that we're bluffing. Maybe he actually does have a flush draw and we charge a flush draw. There's a lot of different hands he could potentially have that we could get value from. And you might only get one street of value here. But I'm definitely looking to put in a bet here on the turn of just like 1,000. It doesn't have to be a whole lot because you're not going to win a whole lot in this hand. So bet an amount you think you can get worse hands to call. So maybe like a third of the pot. Yeah, I think you have to bet there at some point. Definitely have to bet there at some point. Like on this turn, he probably calls 1,000 with a straight draw. Okay, so that's where we're looking to get some value from. Those types of hands. So at least one street of value there. Get a spot to play. What happened here? Nice river. Now, this might... man, players are kind of loose. I was going to say, this could be an any 2 card open here. I know you're committed to this stack. It really doesn't matter. The only point that it matters might be image. So maybe don't open 3-6, but I would open up really, really wide here. You have stacks that are all above 10 big blinds. You're not committed to any of them except for this one guy. The pot is huge. You would have to raise 1,600 to win 1875. So this has to work less than 50% of the time. Very, very plus EV spot here. The only concern here is maybe we have a guy that's loose here. We have a guy that's kind of loose passive to our left. We saw him call our under the gun raise from the blinds with Jack 9. So that may be a concern. But the point here is, whether you want to open this or not, is don't pick up a hand and just insta-fold just because it's not any good. Look at who's to your left. And this spot, disregarding the fact that you have what seems to be 3 at least loose players to your left, if you had at least 2 or 3 of these guys relatively tight, I'd be opening any 2 cards here. Hold on. And let's get back at it. Sorry about that. They're doing an alarm test here in the building. So, alright, see you later. I'll be posting this in the forum as well. So this spot, which might seem crazy, depending on the players, could be an any 2 card open. And pick up a couple of these types of pots, and you'll find your stack getting pretty damn big. We get a walk here. That's nice. Guys playing 9-3. I would say even you can min raise that 10 big blind type of min raise play could work in certain spots, but I think against this guy we've already seen he's kind of he's tight, but we've seen him call raises. I would just jam here. Definitely jamming.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the 3x from a 10 big blind stack. It's always interesting. Anybody shipping this with the small stack here?
Not really.
Nah, I don't like it. I would ship this. Not anymore. Nice. Looking at the stacks, not great for an open here, given how many players you're committed to with a rag ace. So I would just let that go. I see people typing away here, so I'll just wait to see what you guys have to say. Alright, you were going to ask about 3-3. Pocket threes. What do you guys think here?
So I think I'm definitely gone.
Yeah.
I think I know the stat hand as well. Yeah, it probably is a spot that I would call versus reg.
Yeah, I agree with that. Against a regular, this can be really good. I mean, the thing that hurts us a little bit is that because of our stack size, if we lose this spot, we lose some equity in the tournament. But having said that, our gains can be pretty high here because we posted the big blind. So we gain more than 1 BB on average by calling against a regular here almost every single time. So this could be a pretty good spot to call.
Is this guy reg? I'm not familiar with him.
Which is the which status for the hands? Is the 65? I can't really see it there now, to be honest. It's his name is what?
Yeah, 65 hands.
Yeah, that's probably not a regular then. But
well, it's only based upon the hands from this game. I loaded in 2 games, so
okay, yeah.
I'm not as familiar with him. Yeah, against a reg it'd be better to call. I agree. One part that concerns me is that our stack is pretty good here, so you would definitely be sure that he's shoving wide. Regs obviously will shove wide. Because we have a stack that can essentially win this. That's what I'm always, figuring out how much we have to potentially lose.
Then is this $3 eBay or?
This is an $8 180.
$8 one. So this is probably the final 2 tables, is it? Or if even the final table?
It's getting close to the final 2, I would think.
Yeah.
So, threes is, against that random guy, it's fine. Just toss it. I think I fold there. I think jamming here is fine. Maybe a raise to potentially induce a lighter shove. If I'm not sure how many players will do that, but if they're loose players, I may just raise to get them to make a mistake. And I only say that because when you shove all in, I mean, I know the effective stacks are low, but when you shove all in, it makes the non-regs, essentially makes their life easier to decide what to do. They have 2 decisions: call it all in or fold. They'll look at their hand and they'll make a determination. If you raise, there's always that chance of the third possibility, or I guess even fourth. They could fold, they could 3-bet all in. Well, I guess just 3 decisions: 3-bet all in, fold, or even just flat you. Which I actually don't mind as well. From there's tons of value in that if they're not going to call an all in and just call you. So let the non-regs, let the fishy players make mistakes. So sometimes raising here to induce, obviously you know you're not going to raise fold, to potentially induce something else could be profitable. Maybe it happens once out of every, I don't know, couple games, but raising to induce is always a nice thing to get value from your big hands versus the loose players to your left. Folding this. Well, there you go. You got a guy to just flat you. So that can be sometimes the value of inducing something with a weak hand. Like if you had ace jack here, you'd be putting it all in on the flop anyway, and if he folds, then that's an extra 3k chips that you ended up getting out of him. To bet or not to bet on this dry of a board? I guess we're only concerned about an ace hitting. It's only 3 outs. I may actually check this back. I think I might check this back. Or bet really. Betting really small is fine. Maybe even like 2k. I might actually check this back as well. I think that's what I'm probably doing. Keeping him in on this ultra dry board. If it was like a suited board, I'd probably get it in now. But, yeah, I just check. I was going to say, if this guy folded, I'd probably just ship it in here. I guess the bubble's probably broken by now. Dum-de-dum. To shove or not to shove? That is the question. Yeah, you have tons of fold equity here. I'm just putting max pressure. HUD stats, can you see them now? 27, 24. You know, a random player.
Yeah, that's not even close enough.
Yeah,
That's a pretty standard shove.
Yep, yep.
With this stack size.
Yeah, these.
Our hand is not ATC like it suited. So
Yeah, it's
definitely shove.
it's a perfect time to shove. From a random here, definitely folding that. As expected. We're in the final table here. Yeah. Alright. ISO shove. Maybe not anymore. Ace 4. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad isolation from that guy with Ace 4, I guess. Yeah, given the stack size, it's actually not that bad of a play. Considering he should be shoving really wide. And he's the big stack. Uh, 10 jack. This will be a shove coming around. I think we got to shove this one too.
Yeah. I mean, from an ICM perspective, I guess Citadel Wizard would say fold, but it's a full ring table, and I made a post on the Curse Dogs forum about why I don't think that full ring tables we should put um, too much or even like any ICM on it. Basically because the stack sizes, especially in this case, stack sizes are so similar that our equity looks a lot like other people's equity here, and we should be trying to push for top three spots. And yeah, basically that. I mean, our equity in the tournament is not that high, and people are gonna be tighter on final tables, and that increases our equity a lot when you're the aggressor. So that's a pretty good shove.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like ICM and bubble factors are concerned, the bubble factor here on the final table is about 1.5 all the way through. So it's really not too, ICM is a consideration, but not the end all be all when it comes to 180s. I think it's better to use in certain all-in calling scenarios. That certain scenarios aren't just pure chip EV. But given the how much you could win here, the equity we have, and the potential future equity when antes and blinds go through us, I'm picking up this stack here. I think this is a very profitable play in the long run. Queen Jack from here, Jack 10 from here. I just think there needs to be a little bit of the consistency. Ace King.
Wow.
Nasty. That's nasty. Oh, he didn't have a big stack.
Oh, right.
I thought he had 34K.
34,000. Yeah.
That would have been pretty dirty to snap you off there.
Well, getting a walk in an 8
Yep.
should be nice.
Oh, did I miss the ace 3 hand?
No way we can call it.
No.
The guy gave you a walk when he was on the small blind.
Yep.
The hand before. So.
Yeah, non-reg there. Definitely folding that. I was gonna say I didn't think I missed a hand there. We're getting close to that range again. I think we'd still definitely have some fold equity. I think we got a ship. Full table. The question is, we're getting short, so is everybody else. What's your guys' range here?
I would usually shove here, the a7. The only thing that concerns me is small blind stack size. If he's a regular, I guess I wouldn't shove as wide. I wouldn't fold a7 off, like ever. I have six big blinds here. That's basically never a fold. But I would probably lean towards not jamming ace deuce off, for example. If only if the small blinds are right, because I have no fold equity against him. But yeah, I mean, you have 6 big blinds. If we don't have a pretty good hand on the next one, we're gonna be in trouble. So
yeah, no, I agree. I'm definitely looking to shove wide here. Hands that definitely have some equity as well. I've called. So I'd probably like ace 5 suited here, ace 7 off. Obviously broadways, pocket pairs, all that good stuff. So the point is even throughout this entire game is that we definitely need to be picking up more chips so that you preserve that future equity and that fold equity. And it doesn't always have to be with the best hand in the world. So if this is folded around, this would be a shove. What's this guy shoving? 21k. Okay. Shipping it. Nice flop for ace queen. Nice board for ace six. You know, I'd probably just fold here and let the blind hit you and call an all in. Considering you'll probably get a better hand than 9-4 and you have 0 fold equity anyway. So, another play here to make is if you assume 0 fold equity, I might actually do this more with like a 10k stack, is to limp in and let somebody else rejam over you to isolate. And hopefully, you know, that's exactly what you want, an isolated pot and hopefully 2 live cards. So it's a nice little tricky play to give yourself, you know, maybe a little bit better of a shot. So this is fine, just call the all in. Nice. This has to be a shove. This has to be a shove. This is an any 2 card shove. You have fold equity against this guy. You know, this just has to be a shove. Let's see a question coming in. Lost the picture. Alright, I'll run it through. I mean, try to jump back in. Again, I'll post this in the forum and I'll run it back through as well after. Can you let me know if you can get back in? Okay. Alright, if you're back in, so here was the hands. This queen deuce, do you see it now, Ivan? Yeah, this has to be an 92 card shove here. Okay. It would be like that for 10 big blinds at least, and below. Any 2. My opinion, it's not a bad chip here. I want to pick up the stack. We have, I think it's actually a pretty good big blind to shove into, given the stack size. He won't want to lose the chip lead.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that considering that comfort seat seems to be waiting for aces,
Yeah.
The chances are higher that, you know, even the small stack with 2 BBs left is gonna fold pretty often. So we have a pretty good hand to go with.
Yeah.
You know, with our stack size, I like it.
Yeah, I agree. I would have shipped it in. We would have lost, obviously.
Never call.
Yeah, I don't think I would call against this guy. He's been so tight. I don't even know what he's gonna flip over. He finally waited to shove ace king. You know, I guess he could have some broadways there, but you know that's not a very big range. That's like 20%. Ace deuce.
Wow.
It's about the best we could hope for. Huh. Ha ha ha. I think if the small blind had a bigger stack, I would be more willing to shove here. I think if they both had more like 40k each, I would probably jam. Or yeah, maybe like Owen said, like Jack 5 suited, maybe Jack 8 off, something like that. I would definitely shove very wide here, but I don't think we have enough fold equity against the small blind. Now, I haven't really been paying attention to how he's been playing, but I would shove wide, but maybe not this wide here. Again, my concern is the small blind. If it was folded to us, this would have definitely been a shove. Just to point it out. Definitely. If it's folded around, I would ship it. Good.
Yeah.
Another good board for him. I would have shipped again if it was folded. Calling anything here. Interesting.
Yeah. Take a note of the guy that he mean raise folds. Shove
Yep, this has to be a shove.
or a mean raise.
Yeah, you could do that, given the stack sizes. 75% fold to steal, 3 out of 4 times in the big blind. 0% 3-bet versus steal in the big blind out of 4 opportunities. That's fine. I would see what I could get away with. I'd make it, 1200. I think we can. I think these spots we can shove.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot of saying the same thing here. Ship it, ship it, ship it, ship it in. Nice walk from the big stack. He should be shipping on you anything. Now, just as a note, whenever you're in this scenario and you've got the big stack here and you're in the blinds versus the other equal size stack, if this guy ever folds, this is the time you have to shove any 2 cards, because it's the time you have the most fold equity, and it's your, essentially kind of direct competition when in the money. The other, I know this guy doesn't have a dominating chip lead here. Things can change in a couple hands, but for the time being, you're in direct competition with this other equal stack, so I would be shoving on him with any 2. 2-4, who cares what the hand is? Everybody's above 10 big blinds. This guy looks to be very, very tight here. I don't think you're ever going to get flatted. You're not going to play post flop. I would see if you can put a raise through here. Who cares what your hand is? Look, you got guys giving people walks, so I would try to take advantage of this and pick up a few pots and try to develop, become the chip leader, or the chip bully, or the table bully. Yeah, you just pick up a few of these pots. Yeah, we have to shove here. You pick up just a few of these pots, you're going to find yourself with, 90, 100,000, 120,000. Good. Fold. In my opinion, any 2. Especially because we've been folding so often. I know it's a terrible hand, but ship it. So you've certainly found your way. Heads up. I don't know. I'm not sure how wide he's shoving, because he's given guys walks in the blinds already. We've seen him do that. So I don't think this is a guy that's shoving too wide. Watch, he'll flip over like 9-4, but I agree it's a bit different dynamics, but from what I don't remember every bit of the game, but he didn't seem to be that aggressive at all. So I would be a bit concerned with the shove here. Jack 5. There you go. So maybe you had it. Color me wrong, but I'm just basing it off of what I saw him before, and I didn't know how wide he would be. I'd probably be definitely more comfortable with like King 9. So regardless, though, I think, Ivan, I appreciate you giving us the hand, giving us the full game to go through. I think it's probably helpful for you and for everybody else to see just how wide you can be in certain spots, and I think to give constructive criticism for your 180 mans that you're going to be playing coming up. Whether they're 250s, $8, or 3 rebuys, I think you definitely need to loosen up your shoving ranges, especially when you're in middle position, and just be more consistent. You did it sometimes, didn't do it the others. So going through games like this and making sure that you're consistent with your ranges, and even put it in Sit and Go Wizard. I know Sit and Go Wizard's not the best thing outside of ICM stuff, but you can definitely get an idea of plus chip EV plays, and hands like that Jack 10 for middle position. Definitely plus EV to shove there when you had 9 big blinds, 8 big blinds. So that would probably be the first recommendation to work on from what we saw here. Second, and this goes for you, for everybody, it doesn't always have to be a push fold game, and I know some people are probably tired of me saying that, but there's times, especially when those antes get kicked in, where you can open up with any 2 cards, so that by the time you get to the final table and final 2 tables, you don't have to be shoving hands ultra wide from marginal spots. So that's definitely something to add into your game. And again, there's videos on that concept, so I won't harp on it now. Check out the videos if you haven't. So, but overall, I think it was a pretty good game to illustrate exactly what you need to do in these 180s to be successful with those really wide shoves, which I don't think enough people do. So it was good to get opinions from everybody on all the different hands. And that's what, again, for people that haven't done the group sessions, that's pretty much what I like it to be. I'm not going to sit here and preach what we should or shouldn't do. I'm just going to keep opening it up, because I think when other people answer and give their opinions, it helps the whole learning experience. So, and
what software are you using to record it, actually?
What's that?
Before I step out.
Say that again?
What software are you using to record it?
Camtasia.
I'm just wondering. Camtasia, cool.
Yeah. So, and Felipe, I appreciate your opinions as well. Definitely good insight into the 180s and shoving and different considerations to make. So, yeah, that's why I like these group sessions a lot. And I think they've been pretty helpful for everybody. So, anybody have any questions? All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pause this real quick. Alrighty, so let's get started with the first heads-up battle here. So, Marcel, you said this is verse and unknown. I guess this will be the last hand before we reach heads up.
Yeah, the last hand.
Yeah, okay, cool. So, looks like you actually reached heads up here pretty quickly. 200, 400, you're kind of deep. Actually, before we even get into the hand, heads up is something that's brought up a lot, and I do believe that it's, an overlooked part of the game. And a lot of your profits can be lost out without a pretty solid heads up game. What do you feel, what's your feelings about your own heads up game, where you would like to improve, or for both of you guys? And especially when we go through these games, what's something that keeps coming up in your heads up games that you're struggling with?
So I've been noticing that I'm losing more than winning.
Okay.
So in general, I reach the heads up with about 15 big blinds or so, and I try to play a mini raise fold, mini raise call, but I don't know if I'm doing it the better way. I'm not sure about my gaming heads up.
Okay.
Well, for me, it's about when you're kind of deep like now, and like here when you're out of position, playing out of position post flop is where I think I have a lot of leaks probably because I'm not, and also what kind of hands to call down with, what kind of hand strength you need to call that river bet or maybe call even two streets sometimes. That's the thing that I find the most leaky I think for me.
Okay. Now you mentioned playing out of position. Do you find yourself calling raises a lot?
No, and I think that's the problem because in a way, I maybe should be calling more often out of position. Because, when I'm out of position, I'll play only hands like, I don't know, say top 15%, king 10 suited, and better queen jack suited sometimes, and maybe not enough of the other hands that may do well, against a player's open range when heads up.
Yeah, I mean, playing out of position is never going to be that advantageous. So I don't think it's ever wrong to not play a whole lot of hands out of position. It's going to be hard to extract value. I mean, it's just the nature of playing out of position. So I don't think, I'm just thinking about my own game. I don't think I call necessarily a lot. I usually, just like any part of the game, do a little bit more of 3-betting and folding than necessarily calling. Maybe if I have like a suited connector, maybe, and we're a little bit deep, I might not, I might just flat and see if we can hit something.
Yeah. Well,
In general,
sorry.
No, in general, we are too shallow to play post flop out of position. In general, I think.
Yeah, but those situations are easy. You kind of tend to notice how much the other guy raises you, and then you kind of figure out what kind of range you want to shove on him. But when it's kind of like now, when you got about 25 or more big blinds, when that becomes a bit more tricky, when you really don't want to go all in as wide as you would when you have like 10, 12 big blinds. I think that sometimes when people are aggressive a lot, and maybe in post flop they kind of lose that edge, and maybe there's a way to gain that. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this whole thing, but for me, definitely when I have to play out of position heads up is I think where I'm at my weakest, and maybe that sounds a bit arrogant, but
well, no, I think it's a very common scenario. Playing out of position is tough to do, especially heads up, when usually you aren't that deep stacked. I mean, for a heads up match, this is pretty deep right now.
Yeah, but when you got a lot of fish that really like to just get the chips in and watch the action happen, it happens quite often, even on the 15s, that you get this deep on
Sure.
heads up. Like 1 in 15 games, for example. I think something like that.
One thing that I always keep in the back of my mind, and it's not necessarily like a specific strategy, just more of how to go about the game versus regs and versus fish. Like, for example, this guy's an unknown, so let's just say he's a losing player. Whenever I'm trying to make decisions, there's always one thing that stays in the back of my mind. It's don't let this guy off the hook. Meaning, this is a bad player who will spew his chips to you one way or another. You just have to put yourself in the right position to get those chips.
Right.
Now, so what do I mean by don't let him off the hook? Calling an all-in too deep, for example. Like, let's say you have ace-4 here.
Yeah.
And let's just say you were in position, and you raise, and he shoves over the top, and you've got an ace. In my opinion, calling off your stack this deep with a rag ace, whether you have the best hand or not, is letting him off the hook. Because it makes the game easy for him. It's just, we're going to flip over some cards and let the cards be dealt out, and that's how it's going to go when we're either dominated or in a 60-40, and I think we can get in better spots than that with a fishy player. Versus a reg, they also regs also tend to 3-bet lighter. What do you guys think about that? Do you find fish are 3-bet or shove all in with a tighter range heads up?
It depends on some players. I mean, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I think in general Fish tends to be more conservative and three bet the top of his range, their range in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah, I mean, you always have the wacky guys that are shoving nonstop. So, all we can go on are just generalizations. But,
Right.
yeah, an unknown guy, a more losing player, they're typically not thinking about fold equity in your range. They're typically looking at their hand. Is it a nice looking hand? Yes or no? If yes, let's get it all in. If no, I'll either just call or fold. Um, so, like if you have a hand like Ace 4, you raise a 3-bet and you're sitting there 15 big blinds deep, you know, I don't think it's going to be the worst hand in the world, for first of all. Second, again, I believe that it's letting them off the hook. I think there's going to be better hands to get it all in, potentially just outplaying them post-flop, even if it's just doing stuff like limp steals and, stealing on the different streets. I don't know what it is. It'll depend on the player. But the point being, again, I'm always thinking I don't want to let this guy off the hook by just playing a pure push all in, call all in, with marginal hands. Even like hands like King Jack and stuff like that. I don't want to get into those situations too much. So that's the philosophy that I'll take into as we even discuss these games. I'm not sure if it'll come up or not. Haven't had a chance to even take a look at them yet. So we're all kind of fresh eyes here. So, is there any other questions or concerns that you guys have when playing Heads Up?
So you tend to play. Do you tend to play Nash Equilibrium against Regs or not? What do you think about it?
No, I don't. Well, that's not true. It depends on what's going on in the game. Like, Nash Equilibrium is fine, and it's useful, and it can be the most optimal play in certain scenarios, but it's not always the optimal play, and that's the point, is that you have to adapt to the opponent and what he's doing. So I think just going into, and this is what a lot of people do, and it's not necessarily wrong, but it's not optimal either, that they go into every heads-up battle, pull out their Nash chart, and start playing push-fold according to Nash. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's mathematically unexploitable, all that good stuff, but what it ends up doing is disregarding your opponent, and which in turn causes you to have less of an edge, more higher variance, less, like I said, less of an edge, and I don't necessarily want to play that way. With that being said, there are some opponents where playing Nash is probably the most optimal. Maybe against your loose, aggressive opponents that are calling your raises pre-flop, that are 3-betting you a lot. Against those guys, it is probably best to play unexploitable. Okay. But against regs, I think a lot of regs can be exploited. And even some fishy players that are potentially tight or even more on the passive side, then I'm looking to make some other plays. And Marcel, like you said earlier, doing a lot more of race folding, race calling, even with 8, 9, 10 big blinds. Mixing in some limps, stuff, not just being in push-fold mode, but trying to figure out the best way to win the pot. And it's not always just pushing it all in or folding. There's some limping, raising. So that's what I'm always trying to figure out. I will say that going into every heads-up battle, especially if I don't really know the opponent, I'm always kind of testing the waters, essentially, for the first couple hands. What can I get away with?
Okay.
If I've played against guys that are just unknowns, and throughout the entire game, they've been unbelievably aggressive, 3-betting a lot, shoving all in. For whatever reason, you get the heads up and they just tighten up. They don't defend. So I wouldn't have known that if essentially I didn't test the waters in the beginning. So what that means is I don't care what my hands are. I'm probably mainly min raising, or like 2.1 if you want to make it look a little bit different, whatever. But we'll just say min raising for now. So min raising with any two cards. If that player is not going to be defending, then that just pretty gives me free reign to min raise nonstop until they do something, and that's usually the approach I'll take. Until you do something different, I'm going to continue to keep doing what works.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I could care less what my hand is. Now, if I raise like 4 times in a row, will I just give them one if I have a really bad hand to make it look legit? Sure. Use some common sense and understand the game flow. But, I'm not going to stop, in a sense, doing that until they do something different. Now, if I raise the first couple hands and they're calling or 3-betting, all right, well, we got to change it up, because then we become the fish essentially by keep doing something that works, or that's not working. Sorry. So then I'll mix in maybe a limp, or even just folding out the bad hands if you're either get into post flop scenarios, or they're 3-betting a lot. So then I might mix in a limp with hands like 5-4, and try to play a little bit of post flop, and seeing what they're doing, how aggressive they are. If they're not aggressive, try to just steal the pot in position. But definitely playing a lot of hands in position against those opponents. Against regs, again, what can I get away with? There's some regs that 3-bet a lot, and there's some regs that don't. There's many regs just purely play Nash Equilibrium, and those are the guys that I think can be exploited beyond belief. So, that's essentially what I'm trying to figure out in the beginning, is what can I get away with. So, let's okay, so you won this hand. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I do agree.
Okay. So, let's see what we got here. So, looks like this guy's min raising, folding, perfectly fine. So I could care less that I have 8-deuce. Now, you may know this player. It says he's an unknown in the hand history you gave me. I'm not sure what stats you're looking at on him, how aggressive he is, or whatever. But this is kind of what I'm talking about. I know 8-deuce is awful, but I don't mind putting a raise to essentially see what I can get away with.
Okay. In order to test the opponent.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah, that's essentially what I'm always doing. I hate giving people chips heads up. I just hate doing it. Because that's directly your opponent. It's one thing to have like 5 guys at the table and fold in your blind. It's another time where you're directly giving your opponent extra chips. And there's always a time to do so, but I just hate giving them chips. So playing in position is more important than anything, heads up. More important than your cards, because as you know, there's going to be times where you're not going to get many good hands. So playing in position is the main thing. 10-5, just get rid of it. King-5, certainly opening it up. We get our first 3-bet, and that is a pretty, I guess, the blinds just went up, so he just jams. Alright, it's kind of big, but... And now he just jams 20 big blinds.
Yeah.
So, I guess he liked this hand. It's probably like a pocket 6 of the shove, where he doesn't know what else to do with them.
Raise 10.
Yeah, something like that. But even though they do that, I'm still going to go back to the min raise. So I do agree with your play here. If you wanted to limp, I think limping or raising's fine. Obviously, we're not getting into shoving all in mode.
I think it's a leak in my game. I seldom limp in heads up. I think I need to improve this, because limp could be a profitable play.
Yeah, against certain opponents, sure.
Yeah, I seldom play this way. I really have to improve this, but.
You remember what we talked about? I'm not sure if you saw in the other video, or if we talked about the limp steal.
Yeah.
And we always talked about that just in normal blind play. And the limp steal usually works when you're in the small blind, the other player's in the big blind, and then you're first to act on the flop. This is a little bit different situation where you're in position, so you're not first to act on the flop, but it still works very effectively, especially against the calling stations that are calling your raises nonstop. And even more aggressive opponents that are 3-betting you a ton.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree.
So the limp could be a good play. And I'll typically, against the aggressive opponents, I'll probably end up limping hands like the connectors, stuff like that. Hands that I want to play post flop, but don't necessarily want to get raised off of. Yeah, so we get a call. Check it too. What do you guys think here?
I think this flop connects a lot with his calling range. So I'd rather check behind one street, and if he checks again at the turn on the turn, I bet. It's my line.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with doing a delayed C bet here. For sure. We could have the best hand. Don't necessarily want to get raised off by, potential draw.
Yeah.
And you don't want to inflate the pot either.
What's that?
You don't want to inflate the pot either, if you bet down.
Yeah.
True. So I'm perfectly fine with a delayed C bet here. And, okay, so you do check it back, so that's good stuff. If he checks this turn, like if this turn bricks, so that's pretty much a brick, I'd probably end up betting like 1,000, 1,100. I don't think it needs to be too big here. There you go. Nice. That should get the job done.
Yeah.
Good deal. So I thought that was good. Like if this was suited, I would probably just flat. But yeah, I just let it go. So this guy's definitely pretty active, doing very weird stuff. So he's 3-bet jammed on you. He's just flatted you. I think he's even folded once. So this is a guy where I'd probably be looking to mix up my play and doing some limps.
Okay.
Yeah, if I can just say, I think this is a guy who's just looking to have some fun with you, He's kind of eager to see how you react, kind of eager to see what you do if he does that. But he doesn't really have a plan behind his actions, so...
Yeah, of course not.
Just with guys like this, the best thing you can do is stay patient, really, and hope to get the right hand to get his chips.
Yep, I agree with that 100%. Definitely want to be patient against this guy. He's the guy that I was exactly talking about in the beginning that you don't want to let off the hook, and because he's going to spew his chips to you, so don't potentially call an all-in with a marginal hand versus him.
Yeah, okay.
This is exactly those guys. So, if bets really small, I mean, if he bets any bigger, I'd probably fold, but...
Yeah, me too.
We have to call.
Yeah.
And, alright, so he hit 2 pair. So he keeps betting. I'd probably... I'm definitely raising at this point. Protect your hand. A lot of cards that can kill the action.
Yeah.
And maybe he did that min raise with aces, and if he did, he's going to get it all in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a dry board too, and I do agree if you raise now.
How much did you guys raise to?
I think I did 2.5x. I'm not sure, but I think that's what I did.
I would consider just min raising only a bit more, maybe like 2.6k, something like that, just to make him think that maybe he's got a bit more fold equity, that I really don't want him to shove on me, kind of like that. So I'd make it 2.5, 2.6k.
Yeah, I was actually going to say around in like the 2.8 range. Kind of if he does, if he has a hand like aces or kings, he's gonna get it all in, regardless of how much you bet here. So we're trying to get value from some worse hands that are potentially more marginal.
Like a 10.
Yeah, 10. Maybe he's got 9s, something like that. So like something in like the 25 to 2,800 range that'll potentially string him along a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's like a 3x.
3x, that's kind of big here. No?
Yeah, I think it's a little big. Just a little bit.
Yeah.
So we get him to fold. So, he may have had nothing there. Maybe he just simply had ace queen or something like that. Ace king. which could be feasible, but I think it's fine. Yeah, so based upon how this game's going, I might either fold this or probably potentially just limp.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Because he's been three betting quite a bit, and it just shows you've been a bit lucky because despite his reaction, you've been able to pick up chips, and at some point you won't be lucky anymore. And this is Jack Deuce is the kind of hand you really don't want to get messing around with.
Yeah. So he's continuing to be pretty aggressive. I'd probably just let this one go now.
Yeah.
Not a bad spot to limp, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we get a fold. Then there's the good old 4x.
For
That's fine. I think that's fine, folding out those really bad hands.
Yeah, versus this guy for sure. Oh no.
Yeah.
This goes against what you said at the beginning and against the whole patience
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah, but
So-
he was opening a lot at the bottom, and I haven't three betted yet. So I think to balance.
Yeah, that's the
I
thing. I
do.
don't think you need to balance against this guy for one, and on the other hand, you got a lot of chips, so there's no need to pick up like what is it, 2.5, 3.5 big blinds, basically. Oh, sorry, 3 big blinds, just with a complete bluff. So I just don't think this is the right opportunity to make this move.
Yeah, I don't, to be honest, I don't care about balancing my range against guys like this. Balancing your range you only balance your range against opponents that are thinking, which means
Yeah.
that they're going to exploit you.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
like, that's why I make all sorts of wacky plays against fishier players, because I don't need the balance. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to get their chips. Maybe that's making an overshove with aces. Maybe that's overshoving the turn. Maybe that's doing some ridiculous min raise. I don't know. It's just I play completely different against them because
Yeah.
they're not thinking. So here, yes, he's been opening wide. So of course he's probably got a ton of trashy hands in his that he's opening with. But the question is, what is he snapping off with? We don't know what those ranges are, but he's opening wide. I mean, I think he could easily flip over ace deuce here, king jack. Those are the hands you technically want to fold. You want to get to fold when you 3-bet like this, but I'm not sure if you are. So, I guess it works, but I think it's a little bit too much risk for a little reward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got ace 5. Oh, baby. What do we do here? What do you guys think?
Oh, it's tempting to call because he's been three betting so much and he's shoving, and we just in the previous hand we just 3-bet shoved on him, so he may be a bit tilty, but I would like a slightly stronger hand, maybe ace 8, something like. I would let this one go. There's no need to rush anything here. I think we have a big edge, and this is a bit too marginal for me.
Yeah, it's funny. This is actually the exact spot I was talking about right before we started. Is if he had 6K here, I would call him.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. My concern here is he represents a large portion of our stack. I know starting this hand, we have the chip lead, and he's got about a little over 10,600. We've got 16,000. So he's representing a good portion of our stack, and we're still relatively deep.
Mhm.
The thing is, you're either dominated or you're in a 60-40.
Mhm.
It's just it's one of those spots where I feel like we might be letting him off the hook a little bit by calling.
Mm.
So I agree, maybe like an ace 8, ace 9, something like that. I would probably call with. And here's the thing. I know he's been pretty wacky. We still haven't seen him show down a hand.
Yeah.
So, maybe he shoves all in with his good hands. I don't know. That's the point. I don't know. I know he's been pretty aggressive in certain spots, but I don't know yet. I don't know what hands are. Maybe he's just card racking. I don't know. So there's that ace king. Nice river. So that's fine. It's just, not that he has to have ace king here, but I just think that's letting him off the hook a little bit.
Yeah. That's probably another leak of mine. I seldom fold ace, even weak ace in 3-bet pots at heads up, on heads up. So I do need to work at this point.
Yeah. It's hard to fold an ace heads up because it's an ace heads up. There's only one other opponent. You most likely have the best hand.
Yeah.
When I'm sitting there like 12 big blinds or less, typically, I will probably get it all in with any ace, whether I shove it all in or call a 3-bet or whatever.
Okay.
But if I'm a little bit deeper in like the 13, 14, 15 big blind range, and I have a rag ace, especially against an opponent that I think I have an edge on, I'm usually going to let that hand go. Because it goes, against that philosophy of letting them off the hook. So that's kind of my approach with aces. And the same thing goes for like pocket threes, pocket deuces. 10, 11 big blinds, okay, let's get it in. 13, 14, 15 big blinds,
Okay.
If I feel I have an edge on them, I'll find a better spot.
Okay.
So let's jump into the next game. So we've got now is we're against the reg. Well, this is interesting. I guess you pick up a few pots.
Yeah. I've won this game. In the next two, I've lost.
Okay, so you won this game. He must be pretty upset that he loses this. So you got a call here with 10-8. And we hit our 8. Alright. And we shove it all in with King Jack. Perfectly fine. I would actually fold this Jack Deuce here. I think we actually have some fold equity now against him. And I think Jack Deuce I hate any hand with a 2 in it. So we're going to fold.
Yeah.
Queens isn't bad. And we get called by Queen 8. Alright, so now we're even.
Yeah.
It's an easy game. Alright, so at this stage, though, before we even get into any hand, what I do against regs is, I'm typically playing a more raise-fold game, raise-call, even with 10 big blinds.
Okay.
9, 10 big blinds, because, again, I want to figure out how wide their shoving range is compared to their all-in calling range. And if it's not significantly different, or not that much different at all, then this is where raising and folding or raising and calling is much more optimal than shoving all in.
Okay.
And that goes, to that other video I made for that Sit and Go series about analyzing the push-fold game. And even with 10 big blinds, 9 big blinds, even 8, that if you're against an opponent in the blinds and you're in a standard, what seems to be a standard, push or fold spot, but if his calling range, or if his 3-betting range is not going to be much different than your all-in calling range, then playing just pure push-fold is an inferior play. So, is it wrong to play push-fold right now? Absolutely not. But, again, my point is, can we figure out a better way?
Okay.
And I've seen the Genius 1, 2, 3. I've seen him. I don't remember how he plays. Do you remember how he plays?
No, I don't remember. But I think it's push or fold.
Yeah.
At heads up.
Yeah.
Nothing different.
So against those guys, especially, I just like the other guys, I want to test the waters. what's he going to do? Is he going to let me get away with min raising when I have a 1200 stack or 1300 stack? If so, that's going to be my standard play. And what that will allow you to do as well, it'll give you confidence to play any hand. You know, if you start off right away shoving all in, shoving all in, shoving all in, then the next time you pick up 8 deuce, you're like, oh man, do I really want to shove 8 deuce all in? Or 9-4 or whatever. But if you set the stage that you're going to be stealing with a min raise, then you have all the confidence in the world when you pick up 8 deuce. Be like, well, I just did the same thing with ace king. I'll do the same thing with 8 deuce. So, you know, that's balancing your range as well against the regs. So only until they start changing up their style will I change from that. And then if they do start 3-betting me a lot, then I'll probably look to try to induce if I can with a min raise, or mainly, or potentially go to the Nash ranges if I think that they're 3-betting much wider. So,
Okay.
but up until that point, raise fold, raise call.
Okay.
So yeah, he's just jamming all in. So like I would min raise here. I would absolutely min raise here because a reg is thinking, and he's got to think, wow, do I really have any fold equity here in this spot?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I hate this fold. I sincerely hate this fold.
yeah, I think
At least
you
min
just have to
raise
shove.
or limp.
See, I wouldn't even limp here with this. This is
Yeah.
I would shove this hand all in. I mean, just as a basic play. You know,
Yeah.
You know, it's like a plus EV play to just jam it all in there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't
never.
agree with folding. I'm just always trying to figure out not what the plus EV play is, what's the optimal play. So
Yeah.
maybe a min raise here is the optimal play. Maybe shoving it all in is optimal. I don't
Yeah.
know yet, but I'm gonna test it out. Same thing. First of all, again, this is a jam here. You've got a paint card, so I would jam it all in. But again, I would my standard play here would be a raise. And there you go.
Yeah.
So what do you think made you do it here and not in any of these other spots? I mean, queen. What's the difference between queen 3 and jack 6 when you min
Yeah,
raise?
I do agree. I made a mistake. I made a mistake folding before. It's a real mistake because queen three suited is the same in of 8-7.
Yeah, I mean you're gonna raise fold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
And the thing is, if you have to raise fold here, you still have a stack that can win this thing. It's not like all of a sudden you get short stack. What I would probably do is, like, let's say you raise, he shoves, and you're left with 9,800. From here on out until I get back to, 9 or 10 big blinds, I would probably play push or fold at that point. But with that stack, so I mean, I like that play.
Yeah.
So you are
It's the
actually
best.
doing it. So that's
Yeah,
good. So
yeah.
here, oh, this is nice. I don't know. Maybe he has a good hand. Maybe he picks up on that. That's your standard play. I don't know, but so that's nice. And now we can just ship her in. So that was kind of a quick battle, but I think it's a good conversation talking about these hands where.
Yeah.
So it gets going back to test the waters, see what you can get away with. If the min raise will work, that will be the more optimal play. I mean, the best guys in the world to play heads up against are your very tight players heads up, because then you could just min raise all day and they don't defend, and you just deplete their stack. And against
Yeah.
those types of guys, the worst thing you could do is ever fold and give them any chips. So. I'm not sure. I don't think he's like that here. He seems, he was shoving 9-4 and 3-bet a little bit, so he's probably a competent reg heads up. But the mediocre regs or the tighter, fishier players just raise nonstop into them. So let's see what we got here. So quite the disparity in chips. Big chip lead on you. So we got a limp. Against this guy out of position, I probably wouldn't screw around. I'd probably just jam it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd raise that.
Yeah, raise it. See what
Yeah.
he's gonna do. Jam it. Jamming's fine. You know what's another play, and I probably don't even do it as much as I should, but I think is very effective. Raising here to like 1600. Maybe he calls that raise, and then that way you pretty much have a stack to shove all in on the flop, and you're going to shove pretty
Yeah.
much any flop. You might be a little bit too deep to do that, depending on the stacks. Maybe not. But it's just something to think about in a spot like this. Like, you could shove, but he probably folds out a lot of hands. But maybe there's certain hands he'll just call, and he's going to miss the flop 2/3 of the time. So it's a great value play to build a pot and then ship it in on the flop
Yeah. Yeah, it's
with
a nice
a
play.
good hand. With a good hand, mind you. Like,
Yeah.
hands that have showdown value, ace high hands, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, use the position to your advantage. I know Queen Deuce is awful, but we still don't know how this guy's going to play it. All we know is that he limps. So,
Yeah.
I just don't think we should give him all these chips. Limping again. Yeah, this guy's really passive. It's fine to fold there. Bet pretty big. Yeah, so this guy's pretty passive, but I don't know if he's going to be loose passive or tighten passive. Like, is he going to fold to your raises? I don't know. I have no idea yet. But that's, again, what I want to figure out. Because if we
Yeah.
figure out right here with Queen Deuce that he folds, even with his big stack, then that'll give you confidence to open up here,
Yeah.
and here, and here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay?
You could potentially have at least 2,000 chips more, which would, put you in a better spot than you are right now.
Yep, for sure. So here...
That's the thing, Sorry, that's the thing, He's been passive, but you have also been passive, You haven't really moved from the stack that this heads up started at, You're basically just waiting to pick up a hand and shove, and there's so many other spots where you could pick up the blinds, the dead money, and you would be in a way better spot right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got
I
it.
think I started off playing too passive too, so I agree with you guys. I should have tried him before. I should have tried him at the start of at the beginning of the heads up.
Yep.
Okay.
So, we limp here. Like I said, I only limp after I have some information. But this is where I would just fire out a bet here.
Yeah.
Half pot. What you do. Good. So that's good. And that's what I mean before about essentially doing a limp steal from the button. But like I said, I'd probably do it against your more looser passive opponents. I don't know if he's loose and passive yet, but that works here, so that's good. But at least shows you, that play can definitely work. Limp in again. I would do it again. So that's good.
Yeah.
This is where I probably just raise it to like 1,500 or so. Or no, sorry, 1,200. Maybe even 1,000. Yeah. I'm not even reading the blinds correctly. Yeah, I'd probably just do a little bit more than a min raise to kind of keep him on the hook. Probably raise like 1,000. There you go. Not the flop you're looking for.
Yeah, but if he would have an ace, he might have raised, so...
Yeah, I agree. I like limp or checking here a lot. He probably would, probably was raising an ace pre, I guess. I don't think he's raised yet, but
Not sure.
I'm not sure what raising here out of position will do. I mean, you don't really know where you're at, but I think the plan here would be to call him down and keep his bluffs in.
Yeah.
You see, this is where I disagree. I would definitely bet the flop because there's some cards that you really don't want to see, like a 10 or a king or any diamond isn't great for you. So you might end up calling two streets. So I would have protect here, I think.
I can understand that. I mean, against this player, I mean, I get the question is how much value are you going to get from this hand? I know that I'm not necessarily concerned about the only card I'm really concerned about is probably a king. I would hate to see a king come out. A diamond, I don't know if that would necessarily kill the action here in a heads-up spot. So I don't mind just checking and keeping his bluffs in. Yes, if you raise or if you bet the flop, you do get called by flush draws and probably a jack. Obviously, you're beat to an ace. But if we assume that he doesn't even have an ace, then I think his range of hands that he's calling you with are minimal. So you'll get value from those hands anyway. But I at least want to try to keep some bluffs in as well.
Yeah, maybe I get too defensive in these spots with these kinds of hands.
Yeah, so I would, that 4 doesn't change much. So once he checks back here, I think we could safely assume he doesn't have anything. I think in an ace, he probably fires another bet.
Yeah.
So once that happens and this 9 is a complete brick, I would probably bet really small, an amount I think he'll call with a jack. Maybe he's got like pocket fives or something along that range. So maybe I'd bet like 1,200 into this pot, like a third of the pot. What I think could potentially get a call from a worse hand.
See, I would go slightly different. I would consider jamming because we can represent the draws really well here, the missed draws, right? Because we kind of raised it pre-flop. That's the one thing that doesn't agree. But on the flop we play check call and then it's been passive, and I would really consider jamming this and maybe hoping he calls off with a weaker hand because he thinks that's I don't have a made hand.
This guy's been so passive, and he bet really small in the flop. That was probably his attempt to steal. Then he checks the turn when a 4 comes, which in position he should be betting that for. So I don't think there's much in his range that he would ever call an all-in with.
Yeah, I agree. I'd rather bet small here in order to be called by a jack or maybe 80, 7, 6, 5s, etc.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm playing more of a value play here. I don't think the progression of this hand warrants necessarily a shove. An all-in shove here. Versus the thinking player, I understand what you're saying. Like, we kind of played it potentially like a draw. We called the flop, checked the turn, and then all of a sudden we just jammed the river. It's a very weird line to take and a bluffy type of line. But
yeah,
I don't know if that gets paid off enough, especially against a guy who's not. He's just so passive, and that's probably what's the overriding factor here is. He seems very tight, very passive. He's not throwing his chips around at all. So that doesn't really give me any reason to think that all of a sudden he's going to snap off an overshove bluff on the river.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would kind of stay in line with what he's doing, the small bets, and see if we can just bleed some chips from him. King 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually see a hand now. So he limps.
Yeah.
He limps in position with King 6. He decided that once you checked.
I should have bet. I should have bet at the river. I don't agree with my check back.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, he checks. I'm gonna throw out like a small bluff to try to take it down. But that's his attempt, and he's done. Like that's the extent of his aggressiveness. He made his little bluff, and it's all over.
Yeah.
So I think once he checks the turn, I'd probably put in a value bet with the queen.
Yeah. All for check back.
For 7 suited, based upon what you've been doing, limping's fine. Again, I'd probably want to raise.
Yeah.
We get a straight draw. would bet here. I'm fine with betting, taking it down. Probably just around half pot. And we get a call. And then the 7 comes. Get a check. What do you guys think here? Do you bet or check behind?
I bet. I think the top pair is enough here, and we should protect this spot. I think bets is the best play. Do you agree?
Go ahead, Gregor.
The problem I have with the bet is he's already. I mean, how much do you bet? You know, and do you want to call another bet on the river? That's potentially. You know, I think if you are confident that when you bet here and he calls that he doesn't bet the river, then I like the bet. But otherwise, I'm not sure.
I can make an
So
argument for both scenarios. If I can, here's usually my general philosophy post flop, especially on the turn. Let's say we have a made hand, right? But there's some draws. I will bet the turn if I can't improve on the river. Like, let's say we have ace 7, for example, right?
Okay.
I would bet this turn with top pair. Or even like ace 6 or ace 7. I would bet this turn because there's not many cards on the river, or there's really no cards, that are really going to improve.
Okay.
You know, there's no flush cards, no, you know, we're not looking for a straight when we have a hand like ace 7. So if I can't improve on the river, I will bet the turn. If I can improve on the river, then I will typically check back the turn, even with a made hand.
That makes sense.
Okay? Now...
Yeah, I see your point. But now I have a weak draw. Because the 8 doesn't improve my hand a lot. Just the 3.
I agree with you, and that's why I was saying I could probably make an argument both ways for it.
Yeah, but at the same time, this is heads up. You know, if you make a straight, there's just not that much.
That's probably going to be the best hand, though. You're probably not going to get a whole lot of value from the river, you know, 4 to a straight by the river. But in this, you know, that's usually my general philosophy of playing, like on the turn. Like if it's kind of draw heavy and I don't want to get raised off the hand because I could potentially improve, then I will check back. And I'll just give another quick example. Like, let's say you have pocket aces, right? And the flop comes with 2 hearts. You raise, and you have an ace of hearts. You c-bet the flop, you get called. The turn comes another heart. So if somebody has a flush draw, they just hit their flush. And they check it to you, and you're in position. And you have the ace of hearts. That's a spot where I would check back the turn because we can improve on the river.
Yeah, I do agree.
But if we didn't have the ace of hearts, I'd probably raise on the turn, fold to a re-raise, a check raise.
Okay.
So it's not the exact same scenario here, but along those lines of, if we couldn't improve, I would definitely fire out a bet here. If we can improve a little bit, then maybe checking back is okay. Firing out a bet here, though, I would probably make it small. You know, in like the 700 range.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it needs to be too big.
I agree.
So that's probably good sizing right there. Oh boy. This concerns me.
Yeah.
The most passive player in the entire world just raised you.
Yeah.
I fold so fast you don't even see it.
Yeah, I think we gotta toss this bad boy. You know, it's so hard heads up. You've got top pair and, you know, a weak straight draw here.
Yeah, and even with top pair, we have no kicker. There's so many, you know, you just don't know what he has, basically.
Yeah, I'd probably just let this go. This could be a set. This could
Yeah.
be.
Even like Queen 7 beats you right now, so I wouldn't even bother.
Yeah.
Two pair, like 6-7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably just let this go.
There's so many things that can go wrong for you.
Got your 3.
Oh. So I guess
I agree. I agree with
So
you
he,
guys.
man, he fires out a strong bet here,
Yeah.
even into 4 to a straight. So he's either got the 4 himself, maybe he already had the straight. It'd be weird for him to have 8-9. I guess he could. But he called your flop bet. I guess 8-9. It was 2 overs and a gutter. I guess that's the only hand that's beating you right now, or I guess 4-8.
Or yeah, 4-8 because it was a limp pot anyway.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. So at this point though, you can't do anything but get it all in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the turn was probably a fault. So he has 8-9 out of nowhere.
Yeah.
By the time the river, you have to put it in on the river. But this turn,
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
it's a good discussion point with a guy like this. That's for however many hands we've played, like 13, 14 hands, he's been ungodly passive, and then all of a sudden a passive player raises you. It's just like, let it go. Just let it go.
It's a clear fold.
So that's all right though. Looking back on it, I mean that's the point of looking back. We can make the perfect optimal play, and we can criticize this, for hours.
Yeah.
But in game it's a different thing, and I understand that. And maybe you didn't realize that he was this passive. Maybe you had a couple games.
Yeah,
up.
it's possible because I was playing a lot of tables.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't realize it.
Yeah, I mean exactly. I mean we're looking at this kind of in a vacuum of we're treating this as if you're only playing one table and you know everything that's going on. I know other tables are popping up. You may not know that he was this passive. So it's just good discussion points so that when you realize them potentially in later on scenarios, hopefully you can reference some of the stuff we talked about here. So not that it was necessarily wrong. It's just looking back now, it's like, whenever this guy raises, he's probably got it.
Yeah.
So that's something we always have to keep in mind. So it looks like this is a lengthier heads-up battle. What did you say about this? So this guy is a reg, and you're a little bit deep here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can just add, I know JYS, he's a pretty passive, not a very good reg.
Okay.
So that may,
So passive in the sense that he's not going to defend very often?
Yeah, definitely doesn't protect the big blind, and he, as far as I recall, he's pretty much a Nash player, so
Okay.
he doesn't go out of line too much.
So if you knew that, definitely a guy... actually with the stack sizes, I would probably be looking to put maximum pressure on, so maybe this might be one of those times where I might lean towards shoving. But even with your big stack, that should be intimidating for him to want to 3-bet into you, so... I'd probably go and test the waters again and do more of just raising, but with your stack, putting max pressure on him.
Yeah, but raising is definitely gonna do a good job versus him.
Yeah, versus him. Yep, that sounds like it. So that's good
Okay.
to know. And he just folds there. Yep. So I would start it right off and just raise him. Because remember, what's the point of folding 6 deuce? Why do you fold 6 deuce?
Because you don't want to go all in, obviously.
Right, you don't want to
Yeah.
go all in, but also it's such a bad hand. It's always in the back of people's minds that it's a bad hand, but what's it a bad hand for? Obviously going all in with, and obviously playing post flop with. But the thing is, we're not playing post flop against a guy like this, against a reg.
Yeah.
He's not
He
flatting.
won't. Yeah. Obvious. He won't.
Yeah.
He won't flat here.
Right.
Never.
Right, so we
Never.
can take that out. So if we can take
Yeah.
that out, that should open up our range a ton.
Yeah.
Then it
yeah,
comes down
yeah.
to, we don't want to shove it all in. Shoving all in, probably wouldn't be wrong against a tighter player that has 10 big blinds.
Yeah.
But I think it's the more higher variance play. Maybe that lets him off the. That's kind of a way of letting a reg off the hook by just jamming into him with an awful hand when you have a dominating lead.
Yeah.
So that leads me to let's put in a raise. nothing changes in this game. If you raise here, he shoves and you fold. You've still got a
Yeah,
monster
yeah.
stack. He's still, he's still got a lot of work to do. But
Yeah, yeah.
that sets the stage for giving you confidence for future scenarios to raise the steal rather than shove all in. And also, when you want to, potentially induce as
Yeah.
well. That's a lot. I think that's something that a lot of players, they don't maximize when they actually get premium hands like aces and kings heads up, because they go shove, 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 shove. Oh, I got aces. I'm going to min raise. Well, I mean, geez, you might as well
Yeah.
just turn your hand face up. So,
It's yeah.
so min raising with six deuce and aces can be effective in maximizing value as well when you get a hand. Good. So that's good. So, you're doing some good things. It's just a little bit inconsistent. Like this
Yeah.
10-3. I mean, 10-3 is the same thing as six deuce.
Yeah.
You're going to do the same thing with it. Good. All right, so you're doing it there. That's good.
I wouldn't do it in that spot with 3-6.
Right here.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even realize his stack here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I kind of assumed I forgot we pretty much won all these hands. Thanks for pointing that out. I didn't really see that the blinds went to 300, 600 in his stack.
Yeah,
This may be
you
a
got-
time where I would let it go because he's in
Yeah.
like the 6 big blind mark, 7 big
Yeah,
blinds.
yeah. It's true.
So he's going to be much wider now. So I will just let him have it.
Yeah.
So thanks for pointing that out. I didn't see the blinds move. What do you guys do here with King Queen?
I call.
Call.
Yeah, I call that for sure. Just making sure. Alright, so he's getting a little antsy here.
This is not like him, I have to admit.
I would jam. You could either 3-bet to like 3K if you wanted to, and see what he does. I like the 3-bet a little bit smaller as well because it gives me free reign to do it later with any hand. But jamming
Okay.
here would be perfectly fine. I like doing a pocket pairs. Okay, so you did that. That's good. Good stuff.
I probably would fold if he forbet me. What do you think about?
What do
I
you guys-
agree.
I 100% agree.
Okay.
Yep, I agree. It's kind of one of those hands again where I don't think it's necessarily a good thing this deep to call it off with threes.
Yeah.
So you could shove there and it'd be a very plus EV shove. But if you're gonna 3-bet fold with threes, I just want to point out then threes becomes 6 deuce, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as
yeah.
long as you understand that, okay, I have threes, I'm going to 3-bet, but if I'm going to fold with it, then you better
Yeah.
do it with other hands as well,
Yeah.
okay? Because it makes no difference. If
I
you would have
agree.
jammed here, that's a different story. Because if he flips over ace king, you're actually not doing too bad, especially
Yeah,
considering
yeah.
fold equity and and the fact that you're in a coin flip at that point. So it's not a bad spot to shove. If he can fold to a 3-bet as well, then the fact that you have threes really makes no difference at all. Okay, be a nice spot to see would have jammed it. Alright, so when he was going through this stage, like he had to shove here with this stack. It's a bad hand, but I don't necessarily think that he's loosening up by any means. I just think that's a standard less than 10 big blind shove, and hopefully he has some fold equity. Here, he could have simply just had a hand, because now it looks like he's getting more back into his passive mode, where he's just folding. So at this point, in seeing that, I would probably go back to min
Raise
raising.
again.
Yeah, getting back into the min raise game. Good. Okay. Alright, so he mixed it up. I was going to say, I wouldn't mind potentially limping in once in a while. Like if you do 2 raises in a row, then maybe limp in or so. And it's not like a specific strategy, it's just mixing it up. I mean, I would definitely be playing it for a raise. You want to keep up the aggression. Because also think about the psychology of it. Okay, he 3-bet you a couple times, right? Is he going to keep 3-betting you? Like, he's got to be, think about it in the reverse scenario. Well, I just 3-bet him and he's continuing to raise into me. Maybe he has it this time. Should I really 3-bet again? Then my 3-bet looks like I'm doing it really, really wide. So think about what you would do in that other situation. Like, especially if he is 3-betting wide and 3-betting to exploit, if you just did it once or twice, are you going to keep doing it? It's a very tough thing to do. So I would just keep up the aggression.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, just keep it going, man. Just keep it going.
Yeah.
Don't give him.
Yeah.
These are one of those guys. Maybe he 3-bets you once in a while. Don't let that deter you for the rest of the game. This is a guy we could potentially deplete his stack because not only is he still folding when we min raise, but he's folding when he's in position too. So if we win just a couple extra pots, he's down to like 9k now, 8k.
Yeah, I play versus him a lot, and I win most of the heads up because he plays so many tables, and I think he just basically looks at the hand and not at your play.
Yeah, so it's really not that hard to play against him because he's just jamming all in.
Yeah,
I would just keep it going. Like, he's just folding, just keep it going. So yeah, he folds. So even if he steals, re-steals on you once every now and again, you can just pick up that chip lead again just by picking up the blinds again.
Yeah.
Huh.
I would probably raise it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see what he wants to do. So it looks like he's even doing maybe a limp steal.
I'd raise it more.
Yeah, I'd raise a little bit more. I think it's fine to kind of keep him involved. I usually like to just make it like 1800, 1900.
Yeah, because now they're just giving great pot odds.
So he limp raised you. Limp min for.
Oh, God.
Min raised you. So I guess you're running into aces here. Oh, jacks. He thought he was trapping.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I would call them in 4-bet and decide based on the flop, because I would expect him to have ace-king sometime in that range as well, and if the flop is like, there's no ace or king, then I'm way more interested in stacking up than I am right now.
Potentially. I mean, that's fine. You could do that. I think he wants to get it in now. I guess the only thing we're concerned about is aces, kings, and ace-king. Maybe he does this with tens. I don't know.
Yeah, but we don't know. I'm surprised that he's got jacks here. I was sure that he would pop up with something stronger.
Dagger on the flop.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an option to just call. And if he's doing this a little bit lighter, then
yeah.
But yeah, that's fine. You get it all in there.
Yeah.
So big. You get queens again, isn't that? And he folds. Isn't that nice of him? Oh, that's devastating. All right. So a little unfortunate there, but it's good information on this guy, on a guy like this. He 3-bet you a little bit, once in a while, like twice or 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah. So don't let that deter you. Just keep raising and raising and raising. Like, okay, give him one here or there, but let your default play be raising.
Yeah.
So, I think this was pretty good stuff. I really appreciate you sending over these hands, and against 4 specific opponents, a reg, even a more tighter reg, a unknown player, a passive player. So, it was pretty good. Like an unknown guy that was crazy, and an unknown fishy player that was as bad as passive as it gets. So that was pretty cool. I appreciate it.
Nice.
Any questions, guys?
No, it's okay for me, and I'd like to thank you for the class. It will be so helpful for me.
Good. So do you think this will help? Just some of the spots that we revisited here, heads up. Do you think this will help? When you approach your heads up games.
Yeah.
Good. So yeah, I mean, I just keep one thing in the back of your mind. Just test the water, see what you're going to get away with in the early stages, and then adapt from there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's usually
I
my
agree.
my strategy.
It's exactly what I would do.
So, all right, guys, good stuff. Let me end this.